What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 23 My Team Career Mode. We are about halfway through the season now as we make our way into round number 11 of our 5th season as Jaguar Racing now. And we're going to be at the British Grand Prix this time. I am very excited for this one, as I'm sure you know. The Silverstone circuit has in years gone by been my favourite circuit on the calendar at times. On this year's game, I have struggled there a little bit more than I did on last year's game, but I'm optimistic that under the right conditions and under the right circumstances we can find ourselves getting a win. If we look to the performance index here, you can see that we are still one of the strongest teams on the grid. We're right up there in that top pack. Williams have finally broken into it as well, so expect to see a lot more strong performances from Liam Lawson and Enzo Fittipaldi over in the Williams. And in the drivers' standings, we are 31 points off the top spot at the moment after a slightly difficult weekend in Austria where Lando Norris managed to get 2 victories in both the sprint and the race. Meanwhile, I was reduced to 10th and 4th respectively, but we still managed to walk away with 12 points so as to lessen the damage that otherwise would have been caused. You know, we were on the verge of overtaking Lando Norris in the Drivers' Championship. We're going to have to wait a little bit longer for that now. But we're still in a pretty decent run of form, Grand Prix-wise at least, if you discount that 10th place finish in the sprint, which was largely due to a penalty, which I felt was slightly unfair. But anyway, enough on that. We are now going to be making our way into the British Grand Prix, coming off the back of a first, second, first and fourth were our last 4 results. So I'm hoping that we can carry that form with us and hopefully get another podium finish here today in Britain, but it is going to be very difficult. But these are, of course, the circumstances that I perform my best at. When I'm under pressure, that's when I start to thrive a little bit more. Now, we weren't in the top 14 in practice, but I still felt like our pace on the medium compound tyres that we set our fastest lap time on probably was all right. It was pretty decent pace. We were very consistent around here as well, so I was thinking it could be a good weekend for us as we head into qualifying. We are going to see whether we have what it takes to bag a pole position at my home race. I can't remember if I've had pole positions here before, but I do know that I definitely have not won here yet. So that's got to be the target for this weekend if we can get there. Definitely a podium, but hopefully a race win as well to really mark out my optimism when it comes to winning this championship. We're going to need to beat Lando Norris to sort of stay in that championship fight. I don't want him to break too far away. We do a 123.7 to kick things off in qualifying on a fresh set of soft compound tyres, and despite being top at the moment, I am going to try and go again. We would have been 3rd even with that time, so that shows that it was a pretty good time, all things considered. But I felt like I had a bit more pace, so I thought I would just go again, see what I could do, and we improved by almost 5/10 actually, which, as I'm sure you can imagine, very comfortably put us P1 at the end of the session. But of course it's only Q1. I don't want to be like prime Lance Stroll, putting my best lap time in Q1 and then not really being able to match it from that point onwards. So we will see what the next couple of qualifying sessions hold for us. A couple of surprise exits here. Verstappen and Sainz failing to set a lap time in qualifying today and joining Sargent, De Vries, Tsunoda and Stroll in the drop zone. De Vries and Stroll really just occupying that backmarker space quite nicely at the moment, but Tsunoda perhaps a little bit of a surprise that even with 2 cars already not making it through, he couldn't get out of qualifying, and instead it's his teammate Zhou Guanyu actually making it out of qualifying. I was quite surprised by that, but we will see what those guys can do in the race. The Alfa Romeos have had a bit of an up and down time of things as far as their performance has been concerned over these last few seasons. On the used tyres, we do a 124.0 to start things off, so I'm pretty confident that we can improve on that quite significantly by a good 7 or 8 tenths probably, as we make our way onto our flying lap in Q2 on a fresh set of soft compound tyres. At this point, already almost 6 tenths up as we come to the final few corners. There should be space for us to hopefully improve by a bit more and get into the 0.2s, 0.3s has got to be the target here. But we don't have the best run, so we lose a bit of time through the corner, and it's a 123.3 in the end, which is definitely good enough to see us through, but only in P2. So we make it through. no real disappointment there. But yeah, Sergio Perez less than a tenth faster than us on this occasion. Norris making it through as well as Doohan in P4. Strong result from him. Eliminated here was Hülkenberg, Gasly, Magnussen, Hauger, the podium finisher in Austria, not making it through to Q3 on this occasion. Ocon and Zhou. Meanwhile, both Williams making it through. I did say look out for them. And both Fittipaldi and Lawson will be making a Q3 appearance. So yeah, very solid result from those guys, and yeah, very excited to see what they'll do in the race. Maybe it could be another podium for Liam Lawson. He's already had 2 this season, so maybe he can make it a 3rd here in Silverstone as well. We are going to try and do our best to get ourselves into the top 3 in qualifying. It's a 1:23.4 on used soft compound tyres, but that's only good enough for P7 at the moment actually, so we're going to need a hell of a lap on the fresh soft compound tyres if we want to get pole position here. I know it's possible, and as we make our way onto the straight before Stowe, we are almost 4 tenths up already, so this could very well be a 1:22, but we go a little bit rough through Stowe. We turn in just a tiny bit too early, lose almost a tenth of a second, I would say there, and whilst we make it up through the Vale chicane, we are not going to be improving by quite as much as I would have liked to. It's a 1:23.0. Is it good enough for pole position? No, it's only P3. What might have been if not for that mistake through Stowe? We will never know.
And with qualifying complete, let's review our top 3 today. Norris, Liam Lawson and Robinson. With qualifying complete, all that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
Disappointment as Lando Norris takes pole position here by 0.05 of a second. Without that mistake, this was my pole position. Comfortably, I was getting that pole position, but we've been out-qualified not only by Norris, but also by Lawson, who gets himself up into P2. Remarkable performance from him. And Jack Doohan finds himself all the way down in P9, so a little bit of a disappointing one from him. But we'll see if he can battle his way back, as can I, as we make our way into the British Grand Prix.
We meet again at Silverstone for one of the great Formula One races of the entire calendar. With a barely believable capacity crowd creating a phenomenal atmosphere, it is time for a race that puts a smile on your face. It is time for the British Grand Prix. It wouldn't be Britain without some rain. Silverstone is a 3.6 mile long test with a total of 18 corners. The Wellington and Hangar Straights are great overtaking opportunities to tuck into the slipstream and then make your pass. Look out for Copse Corner, which is no joke in the wet. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Lando Norris put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he will start from pole position. And Liam Lawson completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Robinson, Albon, Russell, Leclerc, Perez, Oscar Piastri, Doohan, Fittipaldi, Hülkenberg, Gasly, Magnussen, Hauger, Ocon, Zhou, Sargent, De Vries, Tsunoda, Stroll, Verstappen, and Carlos Sainz will start from the back of the grid. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? Anthony Davidson is joining us for this one. Ant, I've been locked in here doing meticulous preparation, but you've been out and about in the paddock. How are the conditions?
Well, it's looking a bit cold out there, if I'm honest. These tyres have quite a narrow operating window in terms of the temperatures they need to extract the best grip. So with a cold track surface, it's going to be harder to keep those temperatures up, which will lead to lower grip and maybe more mistakes.
Right, mate, I know it's your home Grand Prix, but I want you to treat it like any other race. Let's not make any unnecessary risks, please.
Well, no promises because it is incredibly wet, but I still want that win. The heavens have opened here in Britain, as they quite often do. For my British fans, you will know exactly what that feels like, especially with the weather we've been having recently. But anyway, I didn't come on here to talk about the weather. We are focused on the Grand Prix and we are going for that win. Come rain, come shine, we will be there. I am going to be trying to challenge Norris down into turn 1, and hopefully the lead of this Grand Prix will be mine. We get a good parking, 0.1 meters from the limit, and now we just have to get ready. Hope that the tyres don't cool down too much, because the tyres are going to be imperative here if we want to get a good result. So we will see what we can do as the lights come on. and the lights go out, and we've had a decent getaway. Although granted, I would say that it's about on par with the rest of the cars. But we are pulling alongside Liam Lawson now, and round Abbey we are going to go off the track ever so slightly. You get a track limits warning, but we have made our way up into P2, and now we have to try and be very careful because we can only get 2 more of those warnings for the whole race. And yeah, Abbey very tricky in the wet conditions. Fortunate not to get another penalty there because I was definitely off track, but I guess I didn't gain anything from it. And Lando Norris now starting to pull away out in front actually, and we are going to have to push very, very hard if we want to stay with him. So yeah, a little bit of a surprise there. I would have thought that we would have been able to stay with him a bit better than this, but Lando Norris seems like he has the measure of us at the beginning of the Grand Prix here, as he extends the gap to about 0.8 of a second, although we are closing him down a little bit on the run to Copse Corner. There will be no first lap collisions between title rivals here today, and yeah, we are now almost a second down on Lando Norris. As you can clearly see, I am running a dry setup. I was not aware that it was going to be wet today, but it is absolutely soaking. So yeah, maybe a bit of a blunder from me in terms of reading the weather forecast. But whatever the case is, we need to get on top of this very quickly. Otherwise, we are going to be outclassed, outmatched, and beaten to the victory, and probably to the World Championship as well, by Lando Norris in that Mercedes. He's already the reigning world champion, and I am absolutely desperate to make sure we don't have a repeat of last season, where I narrowly missed out on the World Championship in the final race of the season. Lando Norris does a 1:41.9. We're almost 2 seconds down on him after 1 lap already, and his teammate Alex Albon is going to go for P2. He's trying to make it a Mercedes 1-2 at what is kind of a home race for him as well. You know, he is a Thai British driver, of course, and as there's no Thai Grand Prix, I'm sure that he will treat this race as his home Grand Prix. But we've held him off for the time being, and we're going to hold on to that P2 position. Here is my former teammate Kevin Magnussen in the McLaren, having a big spin out of Stowe there, and he's collected one of the Alpines as well. He is out of the race, amazingly, and I don't know how, but nobody else DNF'd from that, even though there were 2 big shunts there with the Alpine and the AlphaTauri. Neither of them retired from the race. It was only Kevin Magnussen out of the race, and a red flag, unsurprisingly, has been called as a result of that. So we will be neutralising the race and having another start here and another opportunity for me to try and get ahead of Lando Norris. Kevin Magnussen, my former teammate, providing me with a real opportunity to take the lead of the race. It's still very wet out there, so we will be going on to another set of full wet tyres, probably still doing a 2-stop. I don't think these full wets are going to go 22 laps to the end. We will see what they can do, and we will see what we can do as the lights come on. And for the second time in this race, the lights go out. And we've had a pretty good getaway compared to Lando Norris. I think we're going to try and go up the inside of him at Abbey here. Can we take the lead of the British Grand Prix up the inside of Abbey? We push him out, but we definitely leave him enough room on the track. And we have taken the lead of our home race. We have snatched it from our fellow compatriot driver and title rival Lando Norris. Meanwhile, Kevin Magnussen's former teammate Nico Hülkenberg, you can see on the minimap, is having issues there. Nico Hülkenberg in the Haas is going to be out of this race, and he becomes the second retirement from the race, and that has brought out another red flag. I do not know if a mechanical failure necessarily warranted a red flag, but it has brought one out nonetheless. Nico Hülkenberg out of the race, and it is a second red flag for us. This is a chance for us to really stretch our legs on the restart, and it is now intermediate conditions, so the track drying maybe a little bit, and a real opportunity for us to break away now. With that dry setup, we're going to come into our own a little bit more than we did beforehand, and for the third time we will see what we can do as the lights come on. And the lights go out for the third time here in Silverstone, and we have gotten away very nicely compared to Lando Norris. Liam Lawson there in P3 as well. He's had a pretty good getaway. Albon, however, has challenged him down into Abbey, and they are holding each other up. So it is just going to be the Robertson and Norris show out in front to start with, and we're going to have to work very hard to keep Lando Norris behind. We know how fast he is, especially in that Mercedes. He is looking like the real deal since he moved over to that team. We're going to speed things up a little bit as we make our way through lap 7, and despite the fact I've only really done about 1 racing lap around here in its entirety, we already find ourselves on lap 7, so this race is breaking away from us very, very quickly, and we are pushing incredibly hard as Lando Norris maybe is getting close to us as we come on the run through Stowe, but not quite close enough. And in fact, I think he might have made a mistake there, because you can see he's fallen down 4 positions all the way down into P5. Lawson, Albon and Piastri have all gotten ahead of him now. And I think Charles Leclerc in P6 might be putting a bit of pressure on him as well. So yeah, Lando Norris, as we move on to lap 9, not even in the top 5 anymore. And this has presented an absolutely golden opportunity for us as we go off the track for the 2nd time here today. It's presented an absolutely golden opportunity for us to stretch our legs out in front and close the gap quite significantly in the championship. But Liam Lawson will have other ideas on that front. You know, he wants to get that first coveted race win. I did say, you know, he had P3 and he had P2 during this season. Next time he's on the podium, he's going for the win. And maybe, just maybe, this time it'll be that. We've been here before where Liam Lawson's been chasing us down, and he goes for the move up the inside into Brooklands, but as we come through Luffield, we know, we've seen in previous seasons how much of a Luffield merchant I am, and we've held on to the position from Liam Lawson for the time being. But I would be very surprised if that is the last we see of the New Zealander as we make our way through the Vale Chicane and Club Corner into lap 11 now, and he's going to be putting a lot of pressure on us as we come on the run down to Abbey. Is he going to go for a move up the inside? Not quite. How's our run through Abbey? It's not great. He's going to try and go around the outside. Is he going to go for a move up the inside here? I don't know. We're wheel to wheel at the moment. You can see those red arrows. They are making me very nervous, but I think we're just about going to hold on from 2 men from the oceanic continent. Lawson and Piastri, of course, one of them from New Zealand, one of them from Australia. But yeah, both of them piling a significant amount of pressure on me right now, and I am really feeling it. You know, we're making a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes and really having a lot of struggles here in the British Grand Prix. It's not my strongest track at the best of times, and when it's wet against 99 AI, you know you're in for a rough time. I am leading quite a significant train behind me at the moment as Piastri capitalises maybe on Lawson not being able to pull the move off on me. Not quite. Lawson does just about stay ahead, but this is an absolutely tooth and nail battle between all 3 of us really for the race lead. Albon may be getting involved, Perez may be getting involved, and the Inter's definitely still the fastest tyre. It did seem like the track was drying out a little bit, but the rain not seeming like it's going to let up before the end of the race in the position that we currently find ourselves in. So we will see if we can hold on to this P1 for another 10 laps or so as we make our way onto lap 17. The conditions are very tricky, but we are holding on to the lead nonetheless. Honestly, I think the lack of DRS is what's saving me at the moment, because I am very slow through the corners, but as we saw with Kevin Magnussen at the weekend, it doesn't really matter if you are slow through the corners. All that matters is that you can keep your opponent behind in the straights, and that is exactly what I'm doing here at the moment. That's the one upside to it being very wet, is that you can burn battery basically everywhere and it will just come back to you and keep coming back to you like a boomerang. The battery will never disappear. So yeah, we are holding on very nicely as we make our way around the final couple of corners, and we're going to be starting lap 18. Not too many more laps left to hold on now, and I am very optimistic about our chances of finally getting a first home win. But it is going to be very nervy because, like I said, the gap behind is super small, and you can see as we make our way to the end of lap 18, Piastri has gotten ahead of Lawson, and he's now going to try and mount a move up the inside at Stowe. Is he going to go for it? Is he going to have enough grip to make it work? I don't think so. We're wheel to wheel as we go through Stowe and on the way down to the Vale Chicane. A little bit of contact there between myself and Piastri, but we go deep and we hold on to the position for the time being. But Oscar Piastri, I'm a bit more concerned about him because I think that McLaren has got a bit more pace in it than the Williams, and also generally I think Oscar Piastri's got a bit more pace in him than Liam Lawson has. But whatever the situation is, we're going to have to push very, very hard for these last few laps if we want to keep Piastri, Albon, Lawson, Perez. There's more cars even in that train. Norris is in P7 at the moment, I believe. So don't be surprised if you maybe see him try and mount a bit of a challenge on us. Any mistake could be absolutely critical, not only for our race, but also for our championship chances here, because we absolutely need to stay in that championship battle in this race. Albon battling with Piastri, holding him up a little bit. We had a very scrappy moment with Piastri earlier in the lap, but we managed to hold on to it. And as we make our way now towards the end of lap 21, there is a safety car out. I'm not sure what this is for, but there are a few cars coming into the pit lane now, including a Red Bull, I believe, of George Russell. And yeah, eventually we do come into the pit lane. And I say we come into the pit lane. The safety car comes into the pit lane, I should say, and we go racing once again. We've judged it to perfection. We've gapped Piastri quite significantly on the safety car restart, and we're going to do our best to hold on to the lead as we come through Abbey. I thought it looked like we went off track there, but maybe we just about managed to stay on it. In any case, we are going to be leading the British Grand Prix with only 3 laps left to go now. I am very, very optimistic about our chances of winning this race. All we have to do is just hold off the Australian behind us. Liam Lawson, I think, must have had some kind of incident because he has fallen outside of the top 5 now, and that's promoted Leclerc up into P5 and Lando Norris into P6 now. So yeah, we are looking like we're gonna be winning this one unless something dramatic happens, but you never ever know what can happen in these races. Oscar Piastri, Alex Albon, Sergio Perez, Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, all of these drivers are gonna want this victory. It is a 6-way battle for the lead right now, and I don't know how to call it. I'm gonna push as hard as I can, but you can see how much my tyres have gone off. I've been stressing them quite a lot. Very easy for the tyres to overheat in these wet conditions, especially when you're on a dry setup as well. It is just impossible to get that balance right, especially when it's intermediate conditions. You never know what kind of setup you should be on. Should you be on a dry setup? Should you be on a wet setup? Are my setups even good anyway anymore? I don't know, because some tracks I seem to struggle immensely with rear grip and the like, but I never know whether that's just my driving or the setup. But in any case, we're holding our own here in Britain, and there is only 1 lap left to go now as we make our way onto lap 26, and somehow, some way, it is Sergio Perez who has made his way into P2. He's not really seemed like much of a protagonist for this entire race compared to some of the drivers we've been racing against, compared to Piastri, compared to Lawson, compared to Norris, compared to Albon even. Perez has not been there, but on the final lap of the race, he is the driver in P2. He is the driver that could stop me from winning my home Grand Prix for the first time across 2 career modes in 2 different games. He could be the one that might deny me that first sweet home victory, that sweet taste of champagne, and I am going to make sure that I do everything to hold him behind. If I have to get my elbows out, I have to get my elbows out. If I have to push him off the track, I'm not going to do that because that's against the rules. But I am so desperate to hold on to this position, I will do whatever it takes. I'm burning all the battery we've got now, literally all of it. You know, I've held on to it the entire race for this exact moment to make sure that on the final lap, I would have absolutely everything to push with. The gap to Perez behind now is closed to less than 0.2 of a second, but I think we've had a slightly better exit out of Maggots and Beckett's, and that is going to allow us to get the run towards Stowe. Or is it? Is Perez going to go for a move up the inside? I don't think he's quite close enough. But is he going to have the grip on the exit of Stowe to make a run on me down towards the Vale chicane? Once again, the answer is no as we come through the Vale chicane and as we round the final couple of corners. For the first time in 12 seasons of My Team Career Mode, I am going to win my home Grand Prix.
Anthony Davidson, a resounding victory today. What set them apart from the rest?
It's a heroic effort for any driver to race in conditions like these, and seeing them fight their way to the front was very special indeed. They were able to find all the grip, all the good lines, and had the confidence to get on the power to top it all off. That's what pushed them into first place here today.
Welcome then to the podium, our top 3 drivers. What a great effort from them today in a very difficult race.
What a crazy race. We finally win at home in Silverstone, and all it took was 2 red flags, a late safety car, and all my teammates holding, or all my opponents I should say, holding each other up. It is myself P1, and then Perez and Albon complete the podium there. So a solid result from both of those drivers as well. And I am sure that this is likely to reignite my championship chances as we close the gap by 17 points to our closest rival, Lando Norris.
So then, it's time to see how this result affects the Drivers' Championship. Not the result our points leader wanted, but it certainly makes things interesting going forward. After an incredible day of racing, who was your driver of the day, Ant?
I have to give it to Robinson.
It's time to check out the Constructors' standings. Meanwhile, good work from the owner-drivers team this weekend, who pushed themselves further up the order. Well, what an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who's joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
Well, whilst we are making headway in the Drivers' Championship, closing that gap to just 14 points, once again, it just feels like that gap is never going to be able to come down in the Constructors' Championship if Jack Doohan really doesn't get his act together. And tomorrow morning, when I wake up and record the French Grand Prix, I'm going to have a very difficult decision to make. Do I retain Jack Doohan, or do I try and attract the services of some other driver, some more experienced driver to the team to try and help us net this Constructors' Championship title? Would I be shooting myself in the foot Drivers' Championship-wise if I did that? Because what if that driver ends up being faster than me and taking points away from me? It's a delicate balancing act that we've got to consider, and I don't know what the right call to make is. But in any case, 14 points separates myself and Lando Norris. Will I be able to close that gap in France? Will Lando Norris have another difficult race to allow me to close that gap in France? Will we have to wait a little bit longer for the Hungarian Grand Prix and the Belgian Grand Prix to try and close that? You know, the Belgian Grand Prix, it's not entirely, but it is somewhat of a home race for Lando Norris. Of course, he has a Belgian mother, so he definitely has heritage in that country. I'm sure that he will have extra incentive to do well there. And yeah, I'm just going to have to try and push as hard as I possibly can. We're at the halfway point in the season, and Lando Norris is leading the championship, so we don't have any more excuses or anything that I can really say as to why we're not leading this championship. We've had a good run of races for us, and we're still not there. So this is the part of the season where things are going to get really tricky. This is the part of the season where I'm going to have to dig deep. You know, there's not every circuit on the calendar is going to be able to come and bail me out of this one this time. You know, there's tracks that I typically do all right at that aren't on the calendar this season, like Austin is missing and Singapore is missing. Those are tracks that I have gone well at in the past, and maybe that they would have made the difference. But at the same time, we also have tracks on the calendar now like Zandvoort and Monza and Qatar and Vegas, tracks that I don't always do so well at, and those are tracks that I'm going to have to try and contend with some very hard charging AI at as well. So it is going to be really interesting to see whether I can hold on to the position I'm in now and maybe mount a challenge for that championship or not. As this rival with Russell draws to a close, it is going to go down to the wire to determine whether I'm going to win it or not. But Russell having another difficult race today, making my life slightly easier for me. Jack Doohan from P9 to P9 in the race is not quite the race I would have wanted him to have, especially when the driver who finished ahead of him in P8, Max Verstappen, came all the way through from P21. But Jack Doohan, I'm hoping, I really want to re-sign him, so I'm hoping that he will be able to turn things around in the second half of the season and prove to me why it was a good decision to re-sign him. So that is what I expect we will see in the next video at the French Grand Prix, which is the next race upcoming. But who can say for certain where this rest of the season, this second half of the season, will take us. That is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.